All right, so this is the official beginning. So here is the nightly housekeeping. It's kind of like same-ish from night to night, but okay. First off, end of the month-ish. Gonna do a single breakdown with Magoo. I mixed and mastered their full length. I think they're going to call it Dwell, and I am really, really excited about this album. I am going to champion it in every single way. It's just sounds huge, and it's really. I feel really lucky to have worked on it. It's just so much fun I mean, we're talking about like each track is like three guitars and big drums and just like the vibe that I love working on. So it was a real treat to do, and I'll be bringing Magoo onto the stream. They recorded it in a home studio setup and did an excellent job with tracking. So it's going to be really neat to get insight on how they captured everything. And then we're going to go through the editing process, and like everything went really smoothly from there, like from file transfer and revisions and notes and everything. They were like a perfect client to work with. So we'll talk about that a little bit, and I'll pull up the mix session and go through the mix of their single, which is pretty cool. It's literally called Pretty Cool. So it's very cool. It's called Pretty Cool. And that is going to be at the end of the month. They're waiting on some artwork to come back to them, and that's holding up like a firm publication date on the single, and we want to time it so that they come on when the single drops. It's going to be really cool, and this is about like how involved I get on like everything that I work on. I like to see people put stuff out. So once I have an exact date on that, I will be blasting that date. So there's that. That's the first order of housekeeping business. Second off, okay, like the general rule for the stream that is like it's kind of happened organically, but I just want to make sure that this stays this way. Keep chat like constructive and positive when people send in tracks. We get a lot of stuff that's like people that are doing their first recordings, and also people that are like literally like signed to labels, who are sending in like rough demos or the early beginnings of tracks, and they feel comfortable sending those here. And I never want it to turn into a thing where that kind of stuff doesn't happen. So I think that a part of that is just like maintaining a general level of like positivity. So that's the rule. That's like the only rule, besides just being, overall decent. So let's see. So Magoo, the rule, and there is on the Twitch a promo tab now, and I'm getting this set up and fleshed out. But anyone supporting the stream via Patreon is going to be able to link to whatever they want to promote themselves on that page. Right now, I've got a track from Synux, but I need stuff from the other supporters, and I'll be fleshing that out. And I also think that I should get like a picture to go with the track. Otherwise, there's just going to be a blank page of links, and it's going to be boring. So I'll track down some photos and some more links from people. That is upcoming. And also, so along with that promo page, you get the daily Patreon shout out. So huge thanks to Synux, Tyler, Ian, Mason, and Elias. Thank you very much. It is greatly appreciated. Oh, and definitely feel free to share the link when people bring other people in, or post the link. We definitely get more fresh people in than when I kind of like spam myself. That's just the way that the world works, you know. And I'm just doing this because I love it, and I hate being the carnival barker. So I also am doing like the Facebook spam thing. I've been doing it for the last few nights. It can be a little bit much, but basically for the first like bit of the stream, I'm just posting this to Facebook groups, and I am constantly and I'm trying to make it unique every single time that I do it. I'm trying not to just say the same thing. I don't have like a script or cue cards or whatever, but it's kind of samey, and it can be definitely a little bit repetitive. That's it. That's the housekeeping. That's the beginning of the stream, the first 5 minutes. And folks, if you would like some fresh perspective on your track, feel free to send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com, and I will take a listen. And also, there's like there's a Discord, and we've got like 10 people in there right now, and it's going to be cool. So there's a Discord link in the Twitch panels, and I can send you the link if you would like it, if you're on any other platform. Elias, good to see ya. How you doing? First week of class. Well, welcome back to life, and I hope that you're not too beat from heading back to class. But it's cool to see you. Haven't seen you in a bit. You missed I think it was Monday was insane. Like I think it was like 5 hours of straight like just stuff coming in, and it was that was really cool. That was a cool night. And then it's been like kind of slowish since then. But it was awesome. And I'm doing like outside of Stream World, I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, it was Monday. It was definitely Monday. So the 10th, the 11th, something like that. Uh, I just been kind of like getting stoked on. I did the final sequence for a full length that I'm really stoked on, and it's gonna. I hadn't listened to it in a few weeks, so doing that and then kind of hearing it again for the first time in a while, I'm like really all about it. That's filling me with the joy that I require. Yeah, it's cool stuff. Yeah, awesome. I mean, like, in between like classes and getting back to it, I don't fault you for not just like endlessly tracking new stuff, but I do look forward to hearing new stuff from you. I uh I also added like a robot to the stream that just like says stuff sometimes. Like that was cool. I figured that out. Made like uh the Twitch commands happen. You can hit exclamation point and do it. It's like, it's just new stuff happening here and there. And folks, if you are just joining and watching, this is a Ton of Open Studio. We're here every single night starting at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you have been working on a recording or locked in a shack with a microphone and want to know how it's sounding, you can send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com at absolutely any time. There are guidelines for how to send, what to send, and why to do it, floating at the top of the screen right there. There it goes. If you are catching this on Facebook, please note that video notifications aren't super reliable. So if you comment on this video, wherever you may be, the likelihood of me seeing it is low. So pop on over to Twitch, twitch.tv/Atonuv, or email me. Or there is the Atonuv Streaming YouTube channel. Those all work great. I hope you are doing well. And if you are catching this on Facebook, sorry for spamming. And also, please note that this is not like a review show. You don't have to pay me to play your tracks or anything like that. I'm an audio engineer. It's focused on mix review and feedback on your mix. That's the whole deal. I am familiar with the environment in which I am sharing this link, and I just want to assuage some of that PTSD. And in the meantime, while we wait for tracks, there is the ever-present, ever-calming dog cam in the lower left-hand corner. If you aren't making any music, and maybe you've never even heard music in your life, but you'd like to just feel the calming presence of a good sleepy boy, Guinness is here to provide. And that is maybe the primary aim of this stream, more so than mixing advice. It's the good dog's work. And hey, if you are just popping in, feel free to send absolutely anything at any stage of production in any genre, and I'm happy to deliver some top-down, bottom-to-top feedback on your mix. If you're popping in on Twitch, there are fun panels below with links to various things and helpful robots that pop up in chat. All accommodating. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the next round of Facebook spamming. Here we go. And folks, if you are just popping in, this is Atonuv Open Studio here every single night at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you've been working on a recording and would like some fresh perspective and some audio engineering style feedback on how to tighten up your mix and what to look for and what is working, is the bass walking over your synth line or vice versa? Is your compression maybe a little bit too heavy-handed, or is it not heavy-handed enough? Let's figure it out. For all these answers and more, you can send your stuff to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. It's right down here, and there are some guidelines for how to send, what to send, why to send it. Up at the top of the screen, it is just kind of going over there. And just give those a read before you send something in. That would be much appreciated. If you are catching this on Facebook, first off, I know the swamp that I am in, and this is not like a or like a radio mix review show where you got to do like pay to play or anything like that. I'm literally just an audio engineer that likes to provide feedback. It is free and it is fun and it is top down, in depth audio analysis. So, if you're on Facebook, please note that Facebook video notifications are lousy, and the chance of me seeing a comment that you write on this is low. Best way to chat is on Twitch, twitch.tv/Atonuv. And I do like being able to chat with people while we go over a track so that I'm not just talking into a vacuum, though I am getting increasingly good at it. So, head on over to Twitch if you can. Then there's the Atonuv Streaming YouTube channel, which is pretty good. It's where the replays are hosted, and also a decent chat. There is like a 30 to 40 second delay there. So not perfect, but I will see your messages. And if all else fails, you can email me and we can talk there in probably the most delayed fashion. But it's a ton of records at gmail.com. A ton of, as in a ton of, but it's spelt funny. There's a U in there. So it looks cool on a shirt, and I would say is cool in general, but it is a made up nonsense word that does not exist. So take a look at that spelling. And that's basically it. I hope you're having a great night. I hope you're making cool stuff. And I just generally hope. And once again, kind of from the top there, this is a ton of Open Studio. This is audio engineering style feedback on your mix, how to get it sounding just that like 5 to 10 to 20 to 100% better. All you got to do is send me your mix and we'll take a listen and get some top to bottom, bottom to top audio analysis on it and see what's happening in that whole track. If you're catching this on Facebook, first off, sorry for spamming you, but I do think that this is a cool thing, and we've got cool people here sending in cool music, so it would be awesome if you joined us. It is not a pay-to-play thing. All you got to do is send me your track, I'll play it, and help you tighten up your mix. While we wait for tracks, it is the, we're hitting like that 15-minute mark of the stream, so we generally start to get stuff in around now or like shortly thereafter. But while we wait, it's mostly me explaining the stream so that we get some new people in here. And if you are sick and tired of me talking about the way that this stream works, you could send me a track and we could listen to some tunes. Or you could mute me and just watch Guinness sleep. He is awesome. He is cute. He is a schnuffle bug, if I was to categorize him, and a very calming, nice presence. So you could just cut the audio here and watch this dog sleep. He's a solid dude. And folks, if you are catching this on Facebook, please note that it is not a great way to communicate. You can send me an email or head on over to Twitch, twitch.tv/Atonuv. If you are just entering the stream, this is Atonuv Open Studio. Here every single night to do audio engineering feedback on your latest recording. If you've been working on something for like 2 hours and are just kind of wondering like, how's it going so far? That's cool. I'll listen to a rough demo or a rough mix. Or if you have been, say, tasked with being the sole caretaker for a hotel up in the winter wilderness of Colorado, and you're entering your 3rd to 10th month of total isolation, and you've started to go a little bit bonkers, but you brought like a 4-track and a microphone, and the sole company that you've had for the last 3 to 10 months has been the sound of your own voice being recorded on top of itself over and over and over and over again, and you think that you might be onto something musically with it. Like maybe this is the start of a new career or the perfect start of a pleasant hobby. And you're just kind of wondering, how's the mix? Well, you can send it on over to atonuvrecords@gmail.com, and I will give you some fresh perspective on that Overlook Hotel jam that you are currently working on. And if you're catching this on Facebook, please note that Facebook isn't a perfect way to communicate. Like video comments and stuff will not show up on time. So send me an email to atonuvrecords@gmail.com or head over to Twitch, ideally. That is the most accurate, most fun way to chat about stuff. It's twitch.tv/Atonuv. That is the stream. What's up, Christian? Hope you're good. Hope it's all going great. Yep, that's cool. We got a lot of work and lurk here. Happy to have you lurking. And hey, folks, this is Atonuv Open Studio. I'm here every single night at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you have been working on some recordings or would like some fresh perspective and audio engineering style feedback on your mix, feel free to send it in absolutely anytime. If you are catching this on Facebook, please note that Facebook is not a fantastic way of communicating. Video comments won't show up for a while, or I'll never get a notification, so on and so forth. So best way to chat is to hop over to twitch.tv/Atonuv. You could also email me or head over to the Atonuv Streaming YouTube channel. Those all work great. You could DM me in a pinch on Facebook, but once again, it's going to get like spam filtered, etc., etc. If you've been working on a mix and would like some fresh ears on it, you could send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. I will give it a listen, and I will help you tighten up that mix. This is not like a mix review show that like you have to pay me money and then I'll play your track for 10 seconds and then tell you that it's good or whatever. This is tight ass feedback, y'all. Like what's going on at 200 hertz? Perhaps we need some more kick at 65 or most likely 60. Who am I kidding? Too much compression, not enough compression. Maybe let's drop a different kind of compressor in there. Let's spice up that mix. That's what we're focused on. That's what we do. It's really fun. I have a great time. There are some other people that have a great to okay time. But if you ever feel like it is just all too much and too many numbers and too many technical details flying around, there is Dog Cam, which happens down here. You can just watch Guinness sleep, which sometimes I do. I mean, like if you see my eyes drift, it's generally because I'm just watching this dog sleep. It is a fantastic source of serotonin and dopamine and just like all of that aw, gee, shucks stuff that you need. If you are watching this on Facebook, please note that I will probably not get video comments. Best way to chat is on Twitch, twitch.tv/Atonuv. The email address at the bottom right-hand corner is also a solid way to send tracks and also communicate if all else fails. And that's it. And we'll just take a moment. Hey, if you are just popping in, this is a Ton of Open Studio. I'm an audio engineer. I'm here every single night at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you have been working on a mix and would like me to give it a listen and see what is going on with the technical details on this mix, I am happy to provide in-depth feedback on what moves could be done, should be done, or maybe I would do to personal taste. You could send that track at absolutely any time to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. Absolutely any style or any genre and any stage of production is welcome here. It could be a rough mix or a final mix or a master, and I'm happy to take a listen and evaluate how it could, move around a little bit. Maybe you just started recording because maybe you've got some newfound time on your hands. Maybe you are just trying out your first microphone and interface, and you've got something that you just put together and you would love some seasoned perspective on it. I am happy to take a listen to that. Maybe you have been literally walled inside a recording studio for the last 10 months, and you've put together this gigantic modern pop symphony, and you've listened to it for 72 hours every single day. You've somehow condensed time and created a whole other way of perspective and existence, and it's all come through the power of your mix. But you're wondering, is it too powerful? Will it break the fabric of reality if it goes outside of this magical, trans-dimensional bubble that you've built for yourself over the last 10 months? Or have you gone totally mad? Well, we can figure that out if you send that mix to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. Just take a look at the guidelines up top. There's absolutely no restrictions on possibly trans-dimensional failure. The only guideline is don't send me something that is copyrighted and will get me shadow banned from the internet. Any stage of production will do, and any experience level is totally fine. Feel free to send those mixes at absolutely any time, and I will happily take a listen. If you're watching this on Facebook, first off, sorry for spamming you. Second off, this isn't like a pay-to-play thing. And third off, Facebook is a terrible way to communicate. Like video comments and stuff generally won't show up until like 4 days later. The best way to get a hold of me is email, or definitely the best way to chat is Twitch, twitch.tv/Atonuv. There is the Atonuv streaming YouTube channel as well. And email will do in a pinch. So if you are catching this on Facebook, please just note, it really doesn't work. Cool. Christian, I will take a listen. And hey, if anyone is just popping in, this is Atonuv Open Studio here every single night, starting at about 6 p.m. Eastern each and every single day. The basic way that this works is people send me tracks. I give some audio engineering feedback on it. Send tracks to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. Don't try to reach me on Facebook. Email me or head to Twitch, twitch.tv/Atonuv, and take a look at the guidelines at the top of the screen before you send something. These are the rules. Oh, and keep chat positive. That is my golden rule. Let's get the DAW fired up. And yeah, we're gonna go ahead and check out Christian's track. If you're catching this on Facebook, please note, I will most likely never see a notification on a video comment. So email me or head over to Twitch. These are the best ways to reach me. Cool. Starting from the bottom, low end is a little bit anemic. I would spice up the kick at like 60. It's just wide open down there, so let's use it. And then bass could probably be a little bit fatter. Uh, bass could, I wouldn't say bloodless. Bass could be fatter from like 100 to 200. And then vocals are really, really focused in like the mid range, 500 to 1K. And then they don't have any of that like spicy, over the top thing. The guitar is like naturally resonant at 2K, probably because it's using like a cocked wah kind of thing. And I would probably tame that just a little bit in the mix. And then, yeah, what did you do on the, what were you using on the vocal to get that 1K? So it's definitely, because it's like, I would want to like, oh, yeah, which, like just like a parametric. And the guitar, I think the guitar is like nice and edgy, but it's like a little bit hyped at 2K. Yeah, so if you're using a parametric, I would want to use something like use like a kind of like broad Q, like something wide. It's like the vocal is going up to 1K, but then we don't have anything. It's like 1 to 2K is where we want to like spread out that love, and it's not it doesn't have that like excitement in that region. It's close, but so we would want to broaden that out, and then yeah, I mean for this kind of like for this kind of situation, I wouldn't reach for a graphic. I mean honestly, I don't really use a graphic outside of live sound for like correcting a system. Uh, I don't find it to be like a particularly colorful way to it's not gonna you're not gonna get much out of it like uh I mean parametric you have more flexibility and you're gonna be able to adjust Q and you're gonna have the flexibility of an EQ, but like in this case I wouldn't be using uh, a parametric or a graphic. Like I would be reaching for something with flavor. I would be reaching for like a Neve like 1073 style, or I mean, what I would literally do is in waves. I don't know what the. I mean, I would just look up like waves 1073, whatever it is. And then the Pultec, the Waves Pultec is the Puig Tech, Puigtech. That is what I would literally use. But philosophically, I would just be reaching for things with character. Is the thing. Like I would use like a parametric to like fix a problem if there's a problem, like some sort of like particularly resonant thing that is that's like stepping all over the mix. And honestly, like if everything is tracked relatively well, you're going to find that you need to do that less and less and less and less and less. And just hunting for bad sounds is just going to like lead you to thinking about bad sounds and then hyper focusing on things that could be bad. Yeah, it's I do focus on like vocals from 1 to 2K because that is where so that's the area of the ear that is the most sensitive. And uh it's how you get perceived loudness, and it's how you get perceived uh I mean, it's all about is perceivable bass, perceivable loudness, like what is going to grab the ear the fastest. Because graphics are pretty narrow queue and have no character. I mean, like, you could from a pure numbers basis, but you're not going to get anything extra on top. And so this is like when I'm also talking about like adding like little bits of excitement and harmonic coloration, it's that I want to be doing that like step by step by step in the mix so that I don't have to do something drastic at the end. So like in this case, it's like, okay, I want to EQ the vocal and I want to give it more edge where it'll like poke out of the mix more. Well, I can like do it with two birds, one stone, and introduce that little bit of saturation like right there, because I'm gonna want it at the end. So that's why. And then like a graphic is solid for, I mean, a graphic is great for like live sound because you can like tune a room with it really fast. But I wouldn't pull it up on a session. So yeah, so that vocal, it's like if you used a graphic to do it, you would kind of have to shape the bell with the surrounding, and then it's going to depend on if it's like a third octave, like if it's a 1/3 octave or a 1/5 octave graphic, and you would have to shape the bell like around it. A parametric would be easier. You could like center it at around like 1.5K and then do a broad bell boost, and that's going to give you the edge, and that's going to give the loudness and presence to a vocal, like the natural, like just sound of the vocal. But in many cases, it's like, this is like a baritone voice. So the fundamental frequency that it's producing is like 200 hertz, 300 hertz, 400 hertz, maybe at the top of your range. But we're actually sitting like all of that vocal is naturally like 200 to 400. Okay. So it's like way down there. So 1 to 2K is only harmonics. Like it's the harmonics of the voice. It's the wave folding that occurs naturally. And it's like outside of what you're actually producing. So we need on like a baritone or alto voice to introduce this distortion, this saturation to make it have presence in this crucial range, because otherwise it's just going to be dumpy in the low mids. And then it's the opposite for like a soprano voice, where it's going to have natural presence and some natural fundamental tones in like the 700 to like 1K range, 1.2K. Or I guess, yeah, that fundamental is going to like tap out at about like 1K in most situations with a soprano, but it's not going to have a lot of low mid presence, and then we have to artificially introduce that. And that's where we use like parallel compression or something like that to get some of the grit out and some of the power so that it pushes. So it's kind of like we have to take into consideration like what notes are being used. So I want to EQ that region so that it pushes on top of the mix and has edge and cuts. I also want to make sure that the mix has a nice balanced amount of like that 1 to 2K range, because if there's not enough of it, the mix sounds weak. If there's too much, the mix sounds harsh. And yeah, 2 birds, 1 stone, basically. Long story short. Yeah. So I would want to broaden out that vocal in that region. and probably just take like 1 dB at 2K out of the like kind of like Cocteau guitar. I'm using yeah, absolutely, Synox. I um I think it's the like the Y one. The like spanky rhythm backtrack. Bonk, bonk, that one. Just like 1 dB out of 2K. And yeah, bring up like 100 to 200 in the bass and let's get that kick thumping at like 60 and that'll be good. And then smoothing out that mid range and then the top end, it's like the last thing I would be concerned with. And the vibes or marimba thing is like a little probably too loud in the mix. And the cymbals are sounding a little bit like trashy roomy as of this moment. So could be the recording or they might be getting squashed too much depending on what's happening in the mix. But I would want to brighten those up and yeah, I mean, if they're recorded weird, then just kind of go with what you've got. You could go in and individually phase align every single part of the drum kit. Like open up all of your available drum stems, zoom in really, really, really far, and look for the kick in every single section. And then phase align them. That'll make them sound a little bit better. But also, maybe it's not available. Yeah, so here, like I'm just gonna copy this track to do a quick example. Okay, so we've got multiple tracks, like recording a drum track or whatever. And what we're gonna do is zoom in, like line them up, so they're like right on top of each other in the DAW. And then you gotta just like zoom in, 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 until you can see the waves. And then you want so on like drums, like let's say you've got kick, snare, overhead, or whatever. I mean, first off, in the recording process, it's like why you measure overheads from the snare so that they're getting hit with the snare at the same time. And then ideally the kick is lined up as well, because we've got multiple captures of the same sound. And whenever we have multiple captures of the same sound, if the wave goes up and on another capture, the wave goes down from that same sound, then they phase cancel. So on something like a drum kit, we want to make sure that like we take the overhead track and phase align it. We want everything to collapse back to the kick track, the kick track. So, like take the snare and then blow up the zoom in really far and blow it up so you can see everything that happens. And you're gonna figure out where the kick is on the snare track. And then you're gonna take the snare and then line it up with the kick track so that the kicks are in phase. the wave goes up when the other track goes up. This is also just your drums will sound tighter. Yeah, so even though it's mono, they still have to be phased. There's stereo phase, and then there's like inner sample phase in your DAW. And even if you take two mono tracks, and if the phases are reversed, it'll cancel out and make nothing happen. Which is honestly probably what's because the kick, the low end is a little bit weak. This probably needs to happen anyway. So you're going to want to go into all three of those tracks. And, this is why, this is one of the reasons that, gating works, is because it minimizes the chance that this could all happen. It's all one track, not mono. Yeah, you might just be kind of boned then. So I would just, brighten up the cymbals a little bit, and then be probably just do a big shelf at 4K and boost it 3 or 4 dB, and then listen for where it's a little bit pokey and bad, and then cut those points on the shelf. All right, Synux, I'm going to go ahead and load up your track. Piano and vocal. Cool. Sweet, sweet, sweet. And folks, if you are just walking in, this is Atonuv Open Studio. I am here every single night at 6 p.m. Eastern. And if you're catching this on Facebook, I don't get video comments. So head over to Twitch, twitch.tv/Atonuv, or email me, atonuvrecords@gmail.com. Yeah, Christian, absolutely anytime. It's just those few things to think about, and then also that big bunch of nerdery. So yeah, so if you're watching, emails right down there, guidelines up at the top of the page, and that's it. That's how it works. And yeah, if you're catching this on Facebook, the chance of me seeing your message is incredibly low. All right. Synux.
Afraid. I'm so afraid. So afraid of you. Lying so far into it. I'll give you a piece of me.
We are so full of
What's
apprehensions,
up, Spock?
fears, that one doesn't know exactly to what it points. One thing is sure, a great change of our psychological attitude is imminent.
Yeah, I just got your email. I'll pull this up in a minute. Cool. Um, so I mean, this is really nice, and this is the beginning of stuff. So I don't want to get too nitty gritty, but there's a couple of things going on. Um, it has like a nice like Emogene heap vibe kind of happening. So like that's like a fun thing to think about, and like what could happen. The vocals remind me of it. So what's happening just with the piano and the voice is the vocal is pretty exposed up top, so it feels essier than it probably is. So it's like I don't want to like say like, hey, you got to control those S's quite yet. I would kind of think counter, and I would want to probably brighten up that piano a little bit. It basically stops at 2K, and there's just room to extend that keyboard, the piano up. So I'm not sure if you're using like a VST or how you're getting that piano, but maybe playing with some different piano sounds, maybe something that's a little bit naturally brighter. And it's kind of, and once again, this is kind of hard to make a hard decision on. Cool. Um, it's hard to make a big decision on this because it's like if this is the beginning and then it's going to drop into something full, then it's cool to have it kind of expand out into a more filled out sonic profile. I would advise to like try to get some more info, like try to build this into a thing that things just continually start to like fill out that top end. Um, but as of right now, just purely between vocal and piano, the vocal is definitely exposed above like 2K. So anything that like any sort of noise in the voice and any sort of like, vocal harshness is just like very, very exposed. And if it's gonna be a dark piano, then there's gonna need to be more control put onto that vocal. Um, and I would I would pull up Soothe too. And yeah, so the vocal and piano, like outside of that, I'm getting like really nitty gritty. I think that the core
Give you a piece of me.
like the vocal is like definitely on top, but not in a way that I would say is bad. I think that it's definitely vocal forward, and depending on where this goes, we're in stuff is going to change in context. Like the mix is always about context. Um so in this current context, what I'm concerned about is the exposure of the voice above 2K. And it's like the piano could extend a little bit further, or other stuff could get introduced, like some little, like, you could pull out, like, real hipster shit and just get some sticks kind of scraping on each other samples and just throw them in like the Radiohead binaural stuff, just little things going ASMR percussion just subtly in the background, and that's going to help. That's like a subtle option to kind of bring in something. That's just, but also where uh, that's a creative decision. Um, and then it's like, be careful about mixing as you go. Uh, and it's good to have like an idea in mind and to like you can as you carve things against each other, then it's like, oh, this is how I can fill space around them. It can also occasionally box us into decisions that aren't necessarily being made within the full context of the piece. So I'm not saying like don't. I'm just saying be like generally aware and cautious that sometimes without partitioning out the process of like this is mixing or this is writing, this is recording, this is mixing, that sometimes things get kind of like stuck in a like predestined path. But sometimes that's nice. Sometimes by having limitations early on, it forces other things to happen. So it's like a wax on, wax off. Do with it what you will. But I mean, I think this is a really cool track, and I like what it is doing, and I'm excited about what it could do. Yeah. All right, y'all. Um, so Spock, this is a bunch of stuff. The Some of these, like, we got like one that's like original vocals, but then is that over samples? You got to be more. I have gotten some copyright stuff from some of these if they're like sample heavy, and it like mutes the stream and stuff. So be cautious on that. Gotcha. Cool, cool. And I don't have access to any of these. You're going to need to set drive permissions to anyone with link can access. And I can see that there's a couple of people watching on Facebook. I see the little eye. It's got numbers by it. So if you're on Facebook, please note I very, very, very rarely get video comments on time. So head on over to Twitch, twitch.tv/Atonuv, or the Atonuv Streaming YouTube channel. And in a pinch, head over and send me an email. And that's a solid way to communicate. Yeah, it's all good. And folks, for anyone popping in, this is a ton of Open Studio here every single night, starting around 6 p.m. Eastern. And if you are working on a mix and would like some fresh perspective on it, you could send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. There are guidelines for how to send, what to send, why to send up at the top of the screen. Please give those a read before you send something in. Absolutely any style, any genre, any stage of production is more than welcome. If you are catching this on Facebook, because I am spamming Facebook groups, first off, this is not a pay-to-play mix review show, radio show type of thing. This is just audio engineering perspective on your mix. And also, please note, Facebook does not give me accurate comment notifications. If you comment on this video, the likelihood of me seeing it is low. And also, if you comment like a link, there's no way for me to differentiate if you are actually looking for mixed feedback or if you're just one of those people that comments their SoundCloud link on absolutely everything and anything, like a commercial for toilet paper. Hey, look at my SoundCloud. I don't know. You got to email me or head over to Twitch. So there we go. That is the deal. And Spock, you got to share the file. And you hit anyone with link can view or edit. Usually I'm the boomer. You gotta unboomer yourself on sharing these files. Yeah, I'm personally using Contact, and I know it's super expensive. So, the Contact stuff is good. I think that Mason is using Philharmonic, something like that. I think that those sound pretty decent. And then there's Spitfire. It's good, but it's also spendy. But I think that there are some free Spitfire. I think that there's a couple that are free that are good, and maybe there's a BBC orchestral library that is also good. I know that this gets spendy, and it's not exactly my area of. I mean, basically, I just went okay, people need Contact in the studio, and I will have Contact. Yeah. The Spitfire is very spendy. And yeah, so it's not something that I'm personally using. I just know that it's what people want. So I keep my Contact library up to date so that people can use it when they come in, once people can come in again. Okay, cool. Yeah, I thought that Spitfire had some free stuff. So see what's up with that. All right, those links work now. You know what? I don't really. There's a video on, if you type in !30, there's a link to why you shouldn't blow up 30 hertz in your mix. That's about as close as I've got. I just I tried cutting. I hate editing video, in all honesty. I really, really hate it. And just doing stuff live is, I can just set up a camera and directly answer questions. And sure, I'm probably missing out on some sweet, sweet SEO and yeah, I hate filming video too. I really Oh, I'm in Spruce. I'm hiding in the woods and also not interacting with people until the world is different.
And it all comes rushing back, rushing back. And it all comes rushing back, rushing back. And it all comes rushing back, rushing back.
Cool. So this is a great track. It's well written and it's catchy. It's got good hooks. It's got a bunch of cool stuff happening. But um, basically, this mix is pretty lopsided and it's causing issues throughout it. We got some systemic things happening. So basically, like, it feels too bright, but it's not. And it's because all of the um, all of the low end is crammed below 100. And there's very little happening from 100 to 500. So all of our perceivable low end and all of our perceivable punch is buried. So on many playback scenarios, this mix is going to sound really, really like high endy. And then when we can hear what's going on in the low end, it's really, really blown up and kind of like harsh distortion, harsh clipping, and so on and so forth. And like we're reaching for like harsh clipping on stuff because, I mean, it could blow some speakers. It's possible. So it's not a weapon, but yeah. So all of this low end, it's crammed below 100. We could have more perceivable low end if we tossed stuff like all the way from 100 to 500. Punch, warmth, all of that could be in there. And then once everything gets scooted around, it's going to be like, oh, it's actually light on some of the stuff like above 4K. Like on a super pop mix like this, I would want candy and gloss up top. But because there's a lack of perceivable low end, it's like there's kind of a war happening, and then this mix winds up being like very mid-range focused, which is probably not the ideal within this style. And then this is smashed up about 2 clicks too hot. And then there's also like audible, these are MP3s, so we're going to have that good old MP3 clipping, but it's also like a lot of audible clipping, so it would have to be managed better in the mix stage and then in the master stage. You just got to get backed off. It's real clippy. And I would want this to be like pretty clean and shiny because this is like a great, like really good, like hyper pop tune. But yeah. So this is, if you're just popping in, Atonuv Open Studio. If you are working on a mix, you can send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. And if you are catching this on Facebook, please note that I can't really see comments if you comment on the video. And if you're watching and want to send stuff, send me an email, or ideally head over to Twitch, twitch.tv/Atonuv. All right, Spock, I'm going to get the next one. Here's Flying Away. Yeah. I mean, it's not that they're in MP3 originally. It's that so there's always downsampling clipping, unless you're mastering it to MP3 standards, which I don't know. I wouldn't. The deal is, so like almost every single MP3 clips, but it shouldn't be audibly clipping. Like on things that are managed well and mixed well and then mastered well, that inner sample clipping is going to be minimal to completely imperceivable. So the audible clipping that's going on here points to a more systemic issue that's hard to pinpoint. Just like I can't like figure out exactly what it is by listening to the MP3, but I can tell you that it's definitely there. And it would be more pinpoint, and it could just be. It's also like I could say that it's like about, I would say, 2 clicks too loud, 2 clicks too smashed, and that's going to um, that will affect playback on MP3. And you have to be the fact of the matter is that like most streaming services are doing like MP3, like some of them are doing MP3 320 now. That's cool. But like you are getting downsampled, so you want to contain your stuff. Pineapple, I'm not sure what to do with this Twitch clip. But let's okay, let's listen to this track. Oh, you clipped this channel. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean that first one, I mean I really really like that tune, but like if I was running sound at that club, I would turn that track down basically. This one's clean. The other one, not clean. Cool. Very, very pretty. I would. Kick is really, really nice. Bass is centered a little bit too low. It doesn't have a lot happening in the 100 to 200 region. So, like the kick is perfectly managed, but then I would just kind of spread the love on the bass or extend the piano down a little bit, but something needs to fill out that pocket. It'll be a little bit lacking on a lot of stuff. And then it is. It's pretty dull above 1K. So it's gonna collapse a little bit against other stuff, and then it's also needs more volume. It's too clean. This would have to get hit, and I'm kind of concerned. Yeah, this might be like that kick might be hard limited, or this whole mix might be hard limited to like -7. Which, yeah, we're getting like it's not very loud, and it's also yeah, if you want to send me something but it's like somebody else's, or it's like an analysis thing, I can listen to it and I'll just play it with the stream muted. No, so it's hard limited. It's not true peaking. It's either hard limited or the kick is hard limited, and it's hard limited to a very, very low point, like -7. Uh and or it's not limited and everything's like gain stage to hit -7, but it's it's very low volume and it's very low average volume, and also it's like very, very compressed because of how that kick is hitting. So we have a low peak volume, a low average volume, but we're bordering on it is still a healthy dynamic range, but it's only a healthy dynamic range because it's so low. So like if this got turned up and like hit to like the proper audio standards, it would sound really, really, really compressed. And so it's like a future problem on this mix. And folks, for anyone just popping in, this is a Ton of Open Studio here every single night at 6 p.m. Eastern. And if you are working on a mix at absolutely any stage in the mixing and recording process, like rough mix, demo mix, final mix, any type of mix. And I'm checking my email at the same time that I do this, and I can't multitask. If you're working on something and would like a fresh perspective on it, you can send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. It's the email right down there. There are guidelines for sending in tracks up top. Please give that a listen. And if you are watching on Facebook, please note that the Facebook notification system doesn't accurately deliver like video comments and stuff. So if you want to send something, you got to email me. Email's right down there. Take a look at those guidelines up there. And yeah, or head on over to Twitch. Best way to chat. Twitch.tv/Atonuv. And then there's also the Atonuv Streaming YouTube channel. Chat's on like a 30-second delay there. So it's okay. And yeah, and also like if I see like sometimes I'll get a Facebook comment, but it's going to be like a SoundCloud link or whatever, and there is no way for me to know if you are actually watching or if you are just one of those people that posts your SoundCloud link to absolutely anything. Like, come on down to Mel's Devil Barbecue Emporium, and then here's my SoundCloud link. I don't know. So email me or head over to Twitch. Okay, so Christian, the peak dB on this track was -7. So far, far, far away from an ideal peak value. All right. So this is just one side of a metronome, so this is not a thing. I mean, the peaks minus 0.1 or minus 1. You're going to have two schools of thought on that. I'm personally all about minus 0.1. I would never use normalization. That's for like, normalization is kind of a relic from like video production, and normalization is too like unpredictable. We can get better results by compressing, limiting, etc., etc. Yeah, so Spock, that was Hannah. It's just a right side of a metronome.
Larry, make the bass drop.
Oh yeah, I mean I know what normalization is, but it's not used in like professional audio mixing settings for like music. Yeah, this is good. The hat is ridiculously hot, and in one it's panned to one side, so it makes it especially hot. I would turn that hat down or throw a dynamic EQ at 5K, 8K.
613, 613.
8K. Yeah, other than that, it's good stuff. And for anyone just joining, this is a ton of Open Studio. If you've been working on a mix and would like some fresh audio engineering perspective on it, just send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. Take a look at the guidelines at the top of the screen. If you're watching this on Facebook, please note Facebook chat, Facebook notifications are not reliable. Head over to Twitch or email. Really cool track. Lots of fighting in the low end. The kick doesn't really have a home down there, and it's kind of like the snare is tuned really really low, like 120. So snare is eating up a lot of room where bass could live, and then this is kind of forcing bass and kick to fight for space. So on and so forth, systemic issues. And then the way that this is getting solved is that there's like really heavy side chain, and it's like just like even beyond, like it's kind of like it's almost vibey, sidechain, like sidechain as an effect, but it's like it's pumping a little too hard for even that. And we're also, it's like if there was perceivable thump on the kick, like that amount of sidechain could be cool. But we're not even like it's already there's just so much fighting happening down there that it's heavily sidechained and there's no thump. So we're not even like when we're pumping that much, we want to get like some thump on the pump. Uh, but we're not even getting that. So there has to be kind of a rearrangement of priorities in the low end. So yeah, snare is eating up like 100, and then it's like toss bass into there, give the kick some thud. There's just and maybe it's another thing of like layering kick samples and they are phasing out in the low end. There's just it's all beater, no thump. But like track is very cool and I would just want something to drive it along. And Spock, that's what I've got from you. The fadeaway is a corrupted file. It won't load into a DAW. Sometimes MP3s are like that, like some sort of transcoding issue. And yeah, not much to do there. And then Hannah is just a metronome on one side, so not a thing. Pineapple, I got your link. I'm going to go ahead and mute the stream and take a listen. Yeah, so yeah, Spock, there are the two more, and then one is corrupted and the other is nothing. So that's where it's at. And 1 second, I gotta get my turnarounds straight. Mm-mm. Cool. Bottom to top, big separation between kick and bass. Bass kick is very beater heavy, so that's a thing to consider. Mid-range focused in general. There is it's heated up in the vocals. So big low end is achieved by big separation between kick and bass. So that's that vibe, and then bass is cooked between that 100 to 200 region so that it has big fat bass, and then most of the mix is focused on that 500 to 2K region from a pure. And then white noise is being introduced to like provide lift and like top end kind of sporadically throughout the mix so that it doesn't feel muddy. And that is kind of the trick to doing like that mellow lo-fi vibe, is that there is actually fidelity like on every single track that you hear like this, there's actually stuff happening up top. It's quite possibly sporadic. It's not as busy as like having like a hi-hat pattern fill stuff out, but like every couple of bars we have like a white noise whoosh, and that's going to open up the attention and open up the spectrum and then collapse down and then open up. But everything actually has fidelity that you are eventually going to run into and get a decent amount of traction on. And that's basically just the like sonic carve out, and then writing like it. I mean, it's like relying on like a looped structure and repeated things that are changing slightly over time, et cetera, et cetera. But like songwriting is songwriting, but like as far as pure audio, that is the pure audio. And folks, if you are just joining, this is a ton of open studio. If you are working on a mix and would like some fresh perspective on it, you can send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. I will give it a listen and help you tighten up your mix a little bit. If you are catching this on Facebook, please note that basically I'm not checking Facebook because there's no way for me to differentiate between someone dropping a SoundCloud link on this video that wants someone to listen to something and someone who just sporadically, compulsively drops a SoundCloud link on literally anything. So send me an email or hop over to Twitch. It would be awesome to have you. I love listening to everything, all genres, all styles, all stages of production, rough mixes, demo mixes, final mixes, masters. Happy to take a listen. And maybe you have never recorded something before in your life and you're just starting out. Well, what a perfect time to start. Or perhaps you have barricaded yourself in a recording studio with nothing but your dog and just like 10 cartons of aspirin and a mask, and you have just been recording your pet sounds symphonic bedroom opus for the last 10 months, and you have no idea what it's even sounding like anymore. You've lost all perspective, you've lost your marbles, and you would like a new person to listen to it. Well, I'm happy to do that as well. Absolutely. So, hope everyone's doing great. Hope everyone is well. That's what we do. What's up, Magnus? Yeah, absolutely. If you are working on something, you can send it to the email right down there. There are guidelines for sending in tracks up top, and every couple of minutes, a robot will show up in chat and explain the deal. What's up? Thiker? Thikier? Thikier? Good to have you. Right on, Spock. Cool. Yeah. So I just got a couple from Spock. I'll go ahead and listen to one of them, and then if some other stuff comes in, I'll kind of like sandwich, uh, do a track sandwich. Here we go. Oh, thank you. I appreciate the love. All right, Spock, tell your buddy that this mix rules. This is really good. This is one of the better mixes that's come across. Really, I mean, we have excellent low end separation. We've got like a solid kick sandwich going. So there is, um, oh yeah, if you could enable downloads, that would be great for the SoundCloud link. I like to be able to have the file. It helps me know that it's like actually yours, and also it's easier to play. So, Spock, this is really good. It's got like low end energy, but it's very balanced, like below 100. And then we've got like a really, really good kick thump sandwich between the low end elements. And it's very, very controlled dynamically. It's it's like right on the money. This is exactly like it's pro in many, many ways. I would watch out. I would caution. It's pretty phasey. It's that big, big stereo pad, and it does sound awesome. But there is, caution to make sure that you are happy with how it sounds in mono. Would be my tip, because it does lose quite a bit in mono. So always check that. Always be comfy with it. And as a result of that, it's a little bit scoopy. I think that there could probably be a little more energy, like 1K. Yeah, like that lead line is really, really powerful from 1 to 2K, but like right in the middle, 500 to 1K, we could definitely like maybe even throw some bass there. The harmonic end of the bass, we could get a little more low end power out of this even. Or like a reverb or something. We could like thicken up the space. This track could just be a little bit bigger. Got good stuff. Okay, cool. Magnus, I'm going to go ahead and grab your track. And then, so I'm going to grab Magnus and then Thykier. I'm going to grab your track, and then Spock, I will grab that other track that you did. So that's the running order as of this moment. And yeah, so Magnus started this a couple of days ago, and splice vocals for the moment. Totally understand. So yeah, we're in the beginning stages. Take a listen for sure. Forever. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is sweet. Yeah, I generally let people know if things are like rough. And the rule is positive in chat and constructive feedback in chat for exactly this reason, because we have people sending in stuff that's like real new. And I love listening to this stuff. Good hooks.
I'm sorry, that's the way it is.
Right on.
You won't go fooling me twice now, baby. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. But I'll never let you win again. Don't you be like that, I will love you forever. Don't you think like that, I will love you endlessly. If you don't believe in me, yeah.
Very cool.
I'll let you get to me once now, baby.
Yeah, get some original vocals on this.
You won't go fooling me twice now, baby. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. But I'll never let you win again. Don't you be like that, I will love you forever. Don't you think like that, I will love you endlessly. If you don't believe in me, yeah.
Cool. I mean, this is great. There's so much to love right here. I want you to just type in !30 into chat, and then I've got my spiel in yeah. So there's kind of like a whole list of reasons right there, but basically the low end is really, 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 really hot on this mix from 30 to 60, and it's going to cause you issues, and you're also not going to get reliable playback on a lot of systems. And basically, this is like a monitoring issue most likely, but like in a lot of scenarios, it's basically like you're cranking the lowest part of the low end because speakers aren't efficient down to that region. So we just cook and cook and cook and cook there, and we're pushing out like extra efficiency, and we're decreasing low end. We're decreasing perceived low end on most setups, and we're also eating up headroom on the track, and it's just not going to be able to push as hard and as loud. And we're also missing opportunities to have perceived bass. So basically, you're really, really hot from from like 20 to 40, and then there's nothing from like 60 to 200, and that's where we could get thump on the kick and fatness on the bass. And it's also this thing where you've got the bass is very like 808 follow the kick style. So we really need to get, for it to feel satisfying,
You won't go fooling me twice now, baby.
you know, it's very lined up with the kick. So we want to get really big frequency definition between those two elements, or else it's just going to feel like the kick feels really, really, really clicky because it's just so masked by like sub, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like getting that kick to stand out on its own, bringing back that balance in that 30 to 60, and then just blowing up 100 to 200, especially with something like this funky R&B feel. It's just gonna feel real fat and so on and so forth. So yeah, I would dip 30 and boost. I would do both. You gotta do a big dip and you gotta do a big boost. It's like your 30 is like it's literally off the charts. It's gonna give you like clipping issues and also so on and so forth. And do it in the mix. Like, don't just cut 30 on the master or whatever. You got like go in and dial in the relationship between your kick and bass. Make sure that they're not hanging out in that area together. Give them wide berth, especially for something with this vibe. We want the kick to feel like it's there, and we want to feel it thump, and then we want the bass to get like pretty fat and like hang around a little bit. So and then everything other than that is like excellent stuff. So dial in that low end and you're gonna have a great track. Okay. Grabbing that next track.
Det danske land. Det danske land. Danske land. Stor fed, kæmpe pæk. Tyk, grimme, giver slik. Pikken giver et lille stik. Au, au, lad være. Rent hår, mand. Spær mig på din isetand. En blodig pæk, det er noget jeg kan. Jeg elsker bare det danske land. Når jeg sidder her derhjemme, jeg hører en lille stemme. Corona er så slemme. Det er noget jeg bare skal glemme. Tag ud med alle mine venner og alle dem jeg kender. Vi mangler fantin. Det er noget som jeg kan lide. Barne har lukket. Alt det lys er slukket. Der er ikke flere bajer. Bliver aldrig som det plejer. Drukkultur i Danmark. Corona det er snik snak. Tunge ud, slikke fis. Tror ikke på det. Det er fucking pis. Elsker bare det danske land. Danske land.
Spock, dial in your mid-range. That's going to open up the world of clean mixing to you. Yep, Studio One. I'm a fan. What's up, Jer? So, this is a really, 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 really good mix. It's an excellent mix. Well distributed, well thought out. I would so yeah, Jared, this is I am a mastering engineer, but this is it's a mix feedback. So it's kind of like the whole first part of my mastering process is providing like mix pushback. And this is kind of like what the stream is. People can send in mixes, and I'll just do some top-down style feedback on how to tighten up the tighten up the track. So I really like the mix. I really, really like the mix. I think it's really clean. I think it's pro, and everything is well represented. You have good kick and bass separation and lots of mid-range definition, and it's super clean. I would caution against it is just absolutely crushed. And I have some thoughts on that. So first off, I totally understand electronic music pushes the envelope as far as how much we can crush. And it is a testament to how good your mix is that that's totally next week is totally cool. I'm here every night. It starts at 6 p.m. Eastern and then just kind of goes until we run out of tracks. So send something anytime. What's up, Zale? So, sorry, getting back to this track. No, I'm in Michigan, so kind of close. I'm sorry, my mind gets scattered sometimes from chat, a little stun locked. Okay. Crazy good mix. And I have very rarely come across a mix that is it's like the mix is so good that it is masking a whole lot, like you're pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing like the crush, but it still comes out as clean and like incredible. You know, that's what matters the most. But first off, this is clipping by about 2 dB. So like my full, I'm going to do my whole like loudness rundown here. So first off, first and foremost, I just think it sounds better when we have dynamic range. I will, that's to the ears as far as like fatigue and so on and so forth. A degree of dynamic range is quite nice. Like referring back to like in the Bobcat's mastering book, it's kind of like the holy handbook of mastering engineers. The example it's given is like the difference between an explosion and the difference between a jackhammer. So an explosion is dramatic. An explosion comes from nothing and rises to the loudest point, and it causes big drama. It is the fireworks display of loudness. A jackhammer has a louder peak value than an explosion in many cases, but a jackhammer is something that we eventually just tune out on our walk down the street, whereas an explosion would grab our attention. So that's like the example, because the jackhammer is louder. Like it has peak loudness, it has more average loudness, but it's pinned dynamically. It doesn't fluctuate. It's just okay. So that's what I refer back to in the Bobcat's handbook. And we want drama and we want like excitement, and it's what like the human mind desires. So first off, it's like that. And like on my end, I turned this down. I was like, too much. So, you know, on like pure audiophile, it's like, it's too loud. Now, and then it's so like that's where I like take my stand, and then to provide like some additional reasons to consider not smashing stuff this much. First off, there is the loudness penalty blah, and like SoundCloud doesn't do loudness penalty, and if like all you want to do is post mixes to SoundCloud, sure, but there is like a wider world of things out there, and those streaming services are going to turn this track down. I mean, first off, it's clipping by 2 dB, so that's 2 dB right there. and then super constricted dynamic range, super pinned average loudness. So you're probably going to get turned down like 7 dB, and you're going to risk like your track actually being quieter in a lot of places. But also, this isn't a thing that I like hold to the grave or hold up as Bible truth, because there are many, 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 many neurotic nightmares to navigate with loudness normalization on various streaming platforms, because some of them are region locked. They're not universal across universal devices. Cell phones are different than TVs. Yeah. So you hit the limiter, but so the thing is that if you're like, even if you're using a true peak limiter, and it's depending on what limiter you have, they let inner sample peaks through. And because you're feeding the limiter so hard, it's clipping consistently 2 dB. Oh, yeah. I love Fab Filter. But because it is just so incredibly gained up here, it's letting through peaks. And it's not, and the thing is that your mix is super clean, and they're inner sample peaks, and it's all like percussion. And because your mix is really good, it's not audible clipping. Like, your mix is clean. But the thing is that the robots will see this as a 2 dB clip. So there is the robot neurotic nightmare. And also, I know that I'm not catching up with chat, and I will get to everybody. I'm kind of like, I'm trying to like lock into this thing. So so it's hyperfed, hypercrushed, and it's like, okay, so we got to deal with this. We got this like neurotic nightmare of like loudness penalty hanging over, Ghost at the Feast, etc., etc. Okay. Other scenario. I want to play this at the club. To very quickly, I would go. Shadow Hills like is a great compressor, but you would still want to pair it with a limiter. I wouldn't, like, if you're intent on mastering, I wouldn't go with Ozone. So I would go like compressor and a limiter like every day. I want to play this track at the club. I want to like blow up the club. I want a loud track for the club. I don't care about streaming. Sure. Here's the thing. So outside of studio audio, I can tell you that I'm based out of Detroit, and I do lots and lots and lots and lots of electronic stuff. Techno, happy hardcore. I mean, like, literally everything. Detroit is the electronic music world. And here's the thing. What you're trained on when you're doing front of house is speakers have like peak loudness ratings. They also have average loudness ratings. Okay, and that average loudness rating is significantly less than the peak loudness rating. Like, the transient can be so loud, and then the average loudness is less than that. So when you are running an electronic show and someone puts on a track that's completely and totally pinned, no dynamic range, that means that the average loudness is quite high, and it's going to be pushing your speakers beyond what they can handle in many cases. Like let's say we have like a 12 DJ show, and we've got the system set up, and we have a bunch of people that are that have like a dynamic range tracks. Okay. So we're going to have it set to be a certain loudness. We're running the show, everything's happening, and then someone comes on and they do a set, and everything is pinned. The front of house engineer is going to turn it down to avoid that that damage physical damage to the system. So that is kind of that's basically it in a nutshell. And I think that your mix is very good. If we're just talking about pure loudness, like you've got a clean, loud mix, but I would be concerned about those extenuating factors. Let me check that. Reference material. Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of like my overall thought on uh loudness in general, regardless of like what the scenario is. And it's like a lot of the time, like how we combat that is if you're playing on systems that are rated for 1 billion watts RMS, then, you know, I guess none of this matters and sure, crush it. But in many situations, like on the day to day, like where you're going to be, these are things that need to be considered. And these are just like the limitations of audio. And then it comes down to taste. That's where my taste personally is. So, you know, on a pure, objective level, I'm like, your mix is very clean and you could get away with it. But also consider these like downsides. That's all. Cool. And Zale, I got your track. Would it be possible to set it to download so that it's much easier to route everything, et cetera, et cetera? Cool. Oh, thank you. I mean, I think that you deserve more recognition. I mean, that was a great track. And sorry to be like really picky. Uh Thanks for the follow. And y'all, I know that like there was a lot of chat during all of that, and I'm really sorry. I usually am able to um keep uh I'm usually able to keep up with it, but I got kind of locked in. So if I missed something, if someone sent a track or wants to send a track, by all means do it. I have impassioned thoughts on loudness. Soothe 2 does rule. And yeah, the chat works way better on Twitch. It is much better. And yeah, studio view. I'll get a studio cam up. Oh, Spock, I will. I'll play that track after this Zale track. Yeah, this is my mastering room is just not that much to look at, honestly. My studio is cooler. It's got like a live room and gear and stuff. Um Up here, I mean it's just like traps and speakers and then a mastering rack in front of me. It's not that fun. All right, let's check out this Zale track.
So you really wanna hate me? Everyone is dying lately, and I really miss my baby. Cooped inside, need some help, you're my safety. So you really wanna hate me?
Thanks for the follow.
Everyone is dying lately, and I really miss my baby. Cooped inside, need some help, you're my safety.
And cool.
So you really wanna hate me? So you really wanna hate me? So you really wanna hate me? Everyone is dying lately. So you really wanna hate me? Everyone is dying lately.
Jared, the Twitch is Atonuv. Atonuv. This is great. All right. Couple of things to get. I mean, first off, really, really good track. That's what matters. Track is good. Song is good. There are some room, and that is the most important thing. Have a good song. Song is good. Couple of things that I would consider cleaning up. I really love, and actually, Pineapple had me play one of your tracks. It's cool that you showed up. I played it off stream. I don't play things that aren't people's when they're not here. So it's awesome that you walked in. You have a great control over your sub. You're getting a lot of like that 808 down into the 30 region, and it's not overrepresented in the mix. And that's awesome. And you're also getting really, really good separation between kick and bass. Very cool. And it's rare that that gets pulled off, especially in like a rough mix or whatever. So like, awesome job. This is great. Here is how that could get tightened up a little bit. All of that bass energy is living below 100, and it's very controlled in that region. And that's awesome, but there's a missed opportunity for more perceivable bass in this mix. And so I'm talking about between 100 and 200. Good for you to join us from YouTube. So I would take some of that bass energy and toss it into that 100 to 200 region. And then it'll be more consistent on playback across more systems, and it'll feel fatter. And it's like there's a lot of low-end energy because of that separation that you've achieved, but then on playback, on something that doesn't accurately reproduce down to 30, which is 90% of scenarios, it'll feel a little bit like we're lacking bass. So 100 to 200, like just kind of like a fat, like I would personally pull up a Pultec. That is my go-to move on something like this, and just bump that bass in that region, and we can just really, really, really get like thicker bass that translates more often. That's like all that I would really want to do here. And then it's like on that vocal, it's boxy at 500. Clamp that down. And then it's like so much of the sound and the texture is based on this vocal being like pretty mid-rangey, like 500 to 1000. And I would consider spreading I would consider spreading the love on that vocal into the 1 to 2K. And just to edge that vocal a little bit, like once you drop some of that 500, you'll probably have some room up there. And that's like, yeah. Consider it. Like once that, because it's like we're gonna lose a little bit of presence on that vocal, because it's definitely like it's definitely boxed in at 500, like a little bit of room tone, and then redistributing that energy could get you a little bit like a cleaner, more on top vocal. But yeah, song rules. And then like loudness is dialed in. It's nice. Lots of stuff to like here. Yeah. Pultec that I like the UAD Pultec. That's what I personally, thanks for the follow, dude. I personally use the UAD Pultec. The Waves Puke Tech is perfectly good too. It's all about, you know, just the style and how you use it. And Jer, I got your track. Jer, this is a suspicious link. Are you phishing me? And as far as how I would go about redistributing that energy, I mean, I would probably just put a parametric on and do some like basic cutting in the regions, and then I would use, like, my personal workflow is like parametric for the boring stuff, parametric for like cleaning stuff, and then some sort of analog style EQ for like boosting and flavor. So, Jer, I'm gonna circle back to you. I've got one uh, from Spock that I need to go back to from a while back.
I can build a bridge across the Santa Anita Canyon.
Knee-jerk reaction would be Voxbox. If I just had to pick one. Great track, great vibe. All I would do is pull a little bit, like 1 dB on that sub from 30, redistribute it into that 100 to 200 region. We are at a little bit of a loss for perceivable bass, and then chuck that kick down at 60 for thump, and then it needs to be louder. Right on, Spock. Okay, Jer, let's go ahead and okay, so this is the one that you put some time into. So let's take a listen. No, I like the long jams. Yeah, gear, not too concerned about. This mix is very clean. So like good job on that. There's good I mean like good leveling, good gain staging, good balance and everything. There's I think it's just like some balancing issues, and my biggest concern is that there's it's kind of twofold. So there's a lot of masking down low, and the kick isn't really. It's pretty masked by bass, and we're not getting any kick thump. And then on top of that, the kick is very very clicky, and I would and like it works like with the style. Like we do want like some nice like clicky kick, but it's a little bit too much, and it's kind of like a half dozen of one, six of the other situation where kick's got to thump a little bit more, and that might just balance out the clickiness. So like, kind of put that in your back pocket. Like there's this thing happening, uh, and then like I talk about all the time, there is that bass. The base energy is definitely all happening below 100, so we're gonna have some like perceivable bass issues. We want like some bass in the 100 to 200, and then some harmonic excitement in that bass in the mid range, because it's like a very cool bass line, but it's not gonna drive the song where it's sitting in the mix right now. And then it's also masking the kick, so we're not getting kick thump. We're not going to have like I would want this to be a more prominent bass, you know? So that's, yep. And I would just like cut some space for your kick out of that sub, and then give that sub perceivable low end up a little bit higher. What's your monitoring setup like? That's my, if you want to like type that out down there. And folks, this is a ton of open studio. We're rolling. We're still going. This is like one of the longer ones, and we've got like a good crowd here. So I will keep listening to stuff. If you've got it, just send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. Please look at the guidelines up, scrolling up top before you do. And yeah, thanks for hanging out. It's been this has been one of the really good nights. Thank you for stopping by. So yeah, your monitor setup, I'm curious. And so we got like this clicky kick, we got this masking happening, and then we've definitely got room in that 100 to 200 region, which is a crucial region for low end. And oh, let's see. Those are cool. Sometimes I have to Google stuff. Not gonna lie, I can't keep track of every single thing that exists in the world. I try to. Cool. Do you have a sub at all? Okay, great. You answered the question. So yeah, you've got a sub. You've got this. And your room. Have you done any room treatment? Have you done any room measurements? Sonar Works, Room EQ Wizard, anything like that? Yeah, I'm kind of in that like CLA. I don't really use headphones at all. Like maybe I'll check like reverbs and stuff. Um, like my personal life. Okay, so you got bass traps. And have you measured the room at all? Like, have you done any acoustic measurements? And as far as like taking this basic room treatment like up one notch, like monitor placement is the first thing. listening position, 30 to 40% of the way from the front wall, speakers in a equilateral triangle from the ear back of your head, and equidistant from the side walls, etc., etc. Speaker placement, front corner bass traps, solid. What I would do is, regardless of if you've measured it or not, setting up an RFZ, a reflection-free zone between your monitors and your ears. That's going to move the needle the most. Cool. Measure your room. That's like, just do that. But back to the mix at hand. It's very good. So, like, okay, this little bit of like low end issue, and it's like I'm curious. Oh, sorry, man. If I ever go too fast, you can let me know. And also, the replays are hosted on YouTube. That does exist. Yeah, nice and pricey is sometimes how monitoring has to go, unfortunately. Okay, so I'm going to back up. Monitor placement is, so like in order of effectiveness for getting your room dialed in, monitor placement is at the top of the list. Monitors along the short wall. Okay, yeah, if you just want to, like, sorry, sometimes because I know that some people watch this, like, every night, and they watch me do it every night. So sometimes I speed through it. Yeah, but basically, RFZ, a reflection-free zone, like broadband absorption between your monitors and your ears. That's almost always, like 90% of the time, 95% of the time, that's going to be what you're going to need to do for your room, and then measure your room. So to the mix. Sub and kick. Fighting. Make cuts on the sub. Cook up the sub so that it has, so first order harmonics between 100 and 200, and quite possibly the third order at 500 to 700. That's going to give you more perceivable bass. I think that we want more bass on this track in general. You've got a very, 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 very flat mix, which is great. That means that we've got, it's flat except it's dipping from 100 to 200, which is why I'm curious about your room, because in many situations, especially you're on 5-inch speakers, I'm imagining that you might have some extra energy in your room from 100 to 200, so you might be playing it safe in that region, which it's why I ask about monitoring setup. So, moving on up, so like more perceivable bass, the vocal is a little bit buried, and it's kind of a combination of factors. Like, I feel like the vocal, you've got headroom on this, so I'm like, let's turn that vocal up. And it's also like the clicky kick is interfering with the vocal a little bit. And that's kind of my concern on that clicky kick. It might be burying the vocal more than you would think. And I think that your mix might open up once that gets dialed in. Like that moment right there where the sub drops out, I'm like, there's the kick. So obviously fighting. Yeah, I want more vocal. And so like, let's get we're rid of some of the stuff that's maybe fighting with the vocal. And I'm cautious on just saying like let's do more vocal in general because it's on the border of being a little bit overly essy. And I don't want to have to do like more de-essing than is needed, obviously, because it is pretty destructive. So maybe just like a mid-range presence boost on those vocals, just like super broad Q, like 500 to 2K. Just bring that up like dB and a half, 2 dB, get those vocals over everything a little bit. That might be your most solid move, actually. Um, but first, let's like dial like a like clicky kick. I think is just really in the way of some stuff. Um, but it's like a super clean mix. It's really, really clean and really smooth. It's got a lot of stuff to like, and it has, the style is all there and the music is there, and I really like what's happening. Um, is that all? If you need me to go back to anything or anything like that, I'm happy to do it. And for anyone in there, this is a ton of open studio here every single night starting at about 6 p.m. Eastern. If you are working on a mix and any style, any genre, any stage of production, rough mix, demo mix, final mix, master, I am happy to take a listen and give you some pointers. You can send stuff to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. And there are guidelines up top, and always feel free to ask questions or say hey in chat. That's how it works. I'm on hour like 3 of the stream, so if there's more music out there, I'm happy to listen to it. So that is, if it's there, I will take a listen. And yeah, that's awesome. Absolutely open your studio. I think you should do it. I think everyone should do it. I encourage the world to do it. Are there any studios? I do encourage people, like when you're in college, if there's anyone in the city that has a studio, maybe there's like if there are any intern programs where you can like directly work on stuff and get as much hand-on experience as possible, like take every single opportunity to do that. That is the single most valuable way to learn stuff and also like make connections so that you'll be able to like make money later. Nice. Oh, great. Yeah. I mean, limitless. Like and I mean if you're doing audio if you're doing an audio major in LA, there should be, I mean, like ask around, see if there's like a direct university studio intern program and just do whatever you can to get into that. And then if not, there should be any number of people looking for a thing. And like outside of college, I absolutely advocate that anyone doing anything like picking up a microphone, you should be getting paid like a huge decent wage. I will like stump on that thing. Like I will go to bat for you, get paid for doing stuff. But when you're in the college learning thing, it does make sense to go and do a little bit of interning to get that hands-on stuff. But the moment that you're not in school, like, you gotta get paid. That's the rules. That's the yeah. So I like to use uh Trigger 2. Slate Trigger 2 is like my go-to on this. And yeah, absolutely. Like, especially if you're mixing a live show in post, like, triggering samples is a lifesaver. So I really like Trigger 2 for its functionalities and the stuff that you can do with it. I think it's cool. My big tip for it is, or like any sort of sample replacement, is bounce them to audio so that you can make sure that your phase is aligned with especially if you're doing layering and not total replacement, you gotta always just zoom in on every single phase and do that. I mean, like, that's my golden rule. Yeah, you could be going heavy. Okay, yeah. So that's like the number one rule. Everything else is taste. Like, after you get those phase aligned and you picked a good sample, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then you just got to blend them to taste. Bus them into the same, treat them on the same bus channel. Try to vibe them the same as the kit. Like, if you're going to use a room verb on something, like, send the whole thing with the samples included. Try to make the samples blend as much as possible into the live kit. Kind of through whatever means necessary. I mean, it also sounds like you know what you're doing. So, use your best judgment. And yeah, I mean, that's my advice. Like, if you're already doing these, like, you did it, you lined them up, you matched it, you triple checked, you are a person who knows what they're doing. So now you just gotta, I guess it turns into, uh, uh, are you doing this for a client, or is this like your own personal stuff? Cool, 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 cool. Um, that's awesome. So just to get it, like, totally straight, like, uh you ran a show, you recorded it, and now you're kind of practicing. So this isn't like a client relationship, because that does kind of change my answer, basically. Right on. So I guess so if this was a client situation at this point, and also, like, good on you for lining up your drums, as I would, you could work a show. Uh, uh, so if this was a client thing at this stage in the mix, I would bounce out the mix and go, like, do you have revisions? And it's got to be like their decision, because it's a total taste thing. And don't send a bunch of caveats. Don't be like, I sample replaced your drums, what do you think about them? Like, just send the mix. And then you just follow revisions accordingly. And that's how you run a business. Now, as far as, like, developing a taste for, like, how much to replace the drums, that's got to be Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to give too many. Uh, what you want to do is you want to develop like you're gonna do the mix. You're gonna get like your templates down. Your rough mixes become final mixes faster and faster, and then you start feeling comfortable with whatever you send. Is you generally want it to be like what I'm gonna send is a really, 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 really good mix. It's an objectively good mix, and there could be taste things that happen on the client end, but my mix is good, is how you want to be feeling about a mix. And as you do it more, you'll get more into it. Um, and also, I mean, like, I will plug later in January, I'm doing a interview. I'm bringing on a band that I did their full length. The exact date is getting figured out because they're going to premiere the single. They're waiting on artwork, etc., etc., etc. And it was first off, I think that their album rules, and I'm really, really happy with everything. And it was also like a perfect synergy of like mixer client relationship on every single level, and I want it to be the blueprint for everything for forever. So I'm gonna have them on, and we're gonna talk about the entire process, and then take the mix and like play it and blow it out, and like run through like a bunch of stuff. It's gonna be cool. So like in that specific example, I was sending them stuff, and like when I sent the mix, I'm like super comfortable with the mix. And then the revisions that came back were just things like what you want to come back are just things like saxophone could come up a little bit at like a minute 30, or let's try a little bit more reverb or less reverb on something. That's like a really, really, really good place to be, because then like revisions are like easy. And you want to avoid this thing, and this will be like the first few times that you work with people, but it's basically going to be like you're going to send mixes, then you're going to get back something like feels a little bit uh trebly or whatever, some sort of vague like it feels like this, and that just means like the harshness of it is it means it's a bad mix. Like they're dancing around it. They may not have the lingo to directly say like, hey, what about this snare being all muddy at 200? They're just gonna be like, feels a little bit like this. That means that you gotta like dial up your mix, which is all to say that like I think that you don't truly like you gotta kind of work with people to actually develop what your taste is and what your mix is. I think it's kind of like sometimes I kind of, if you watch this a lot, sometimes I Yoda, and it comes from just like talking into the camera for 3 hours. So to like answer your question of like how much sample replacement is too much sample replacement, or like how does it sound, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm downloading your track right now. Um, you gotta like, uh, you have to work with people and start to develop a skill of like kind of anticipating what is going to be the taste of the client, and also what is the taste of the genre, what is the taste of everything that's happening around it. It's kind of all contextual. uh Small rock band from the late 90s. Cool. So I'm gonna play that track. And I'm going to mute the stream since this is like a band that you're not in, et cetera, et cetera. That's kind of like my moral, ethical / I don't want to get shadow banned. So yeah, I'll just listen to a bit of it. And then, Jer, I got your other track I'm going to take a listen to. Okay, I think that the Jer, I don't think anyone's waiting. So let's see. I'm gonna go through Kieran's stuff, and then if you're still here, I'll go ahead and take a listen to that. Um, but also I am here every single day, so who knows? I think the kick is perfectly appropriate. The snare, I always be more cautious on snares. That's, I guess, if I was to just give like a blanket rule, like the snare is kind of the voice of the drum kit, and they are going to be the most, like if this was a client relationship, they are going to be the most picky about that snare. And I'm feeling like, especially like before things pick up, that snare is coming across too mechanical and too out of place, and I would be cautious on that. The kick is great. I mean, like kick, we just need something to go thump, and you did that. Be more conservative on snare replacement. It's not so much like, unless it's been specifically asked of you to replace the snare, think of it more as snare reinforcement. That snare needs to be just, you need to analyze like what's up with the snare. Does it not have enough snap? Okay, so we're just going to blend in that. We're going to find a snappy snare sample and then blend it in, and it's just going to give the impression of snap, not dominate snap. Or is it a snare that lacks thud and body? Well, let's grab that and then make sure it blends in there. That's kind of like my knee-jerk reaction to this. And then the mix is pretty good. It needs more definition from 1 to 2K. Yeah, you could do a little bit of high pass, low pass, but be gentle. And yeah, mix as a whole needs more 1 to 2K. Could probably be on the vocals. And since you're practicing, you might as well practice tuning those vocals. That would be good practice. That's another part of the job that is a pain, but worth practicing. All right, Jared, let's take a listen. I'm feeling it. Okay. Yeah. There's a lot. So, your second mix ever. That's awesome. You're doing a really, really good job. Yeah, this is great. Second mix ever. Incredible. Here's what's up. So much better separation on kick and bass, but you're leaning too heavily into saturation to get the kick. And it's a little bit like cheap, like car subwoofery. And I would just back off of that a little bit and just rely more on that frequency separation to get it. It's like a taste thing, but it's also like, so much of this is so clean and nice. Like, let's just back off a little bit and get some more hi-fi on that kick. Okay. I am willing to wager that your room is hyped from 100 to 200. Because again, it's just like collapsing in that region, and that's where we could get bass. And in many rooms and many like home studio setups, there is frequency accumulation from 100 to 200. So let's. I think that Sonar Works would change your life, and also like measure the room, and like the reflection free zone will help tame that a little bit. But it's like there's room for bass from 100 to 200, and that's going to change the nature of the mix. And then as far as the mix as a whole, it's very like it's pretty dull, and there's room up top to move stuff around. It's basically like once we hit 1K, everything starts to fall off a bit. And I would, so you've got this clashing accordion and vocal. Let's spice up them vocals and cook like the upper mid range on those vocals. The vocals will sit on top a little bit more because the vocals are a little bit buried. And then it's like there's like some toms that come in at the end, and it's like, let's throw 7K at those. Like an SSL or a Pultec will do. They could just get just a little more top endy. They're very focused in the low mids, and kind of like everything is focused in the low mids. So let's spread some love up above 1K, and it's going to solve like a lot of issues that you are having in some of those separation things like accordion vocals. Just toss them up there. As far as the master, this is like a nice master. I think it's like very well controlled. Here's the thing. I would you are limiting it to -1. I would say -0.1. This is where I'm controversial. Like, there are some people that go like, Scott, why aren't you letting me pin my mix? Why can't I go 2 dB over? Why can't I be the loudest loud boy in the loud land? And I'm like, that's too loud. Here's where I'm controversial. -0.1, if your mix is good and everything is lined up, is fine, and it's better. It's not just fine, it's better. Basically, the rationale for it. So like streaming, like if you look up like how loud should I be, and it's like -14 lufs and -1 because that's what Spotify says. And yes, Spotify says that now. They didn't say it 2 years ago. They could very well change it again. And then also those standards are flexible even within the streaming world. They are not universal across regions. They are not universal across devices. TVs don't have loudness normalization options. And you could turn it off on your phone, and like it's not on the web player, etc., etc., etc. So like, who cares? Is basically like within the world of like cranky professional mastering engineers. Like, nah, we don't do that. Now, the reason for the -1 ceiling is that when downsampling, like when we take this and put it into an MP3, then you will get inner sample peaks above 0. If your mix is clean, it won't matter. It'll be imperceptible. So if everything is in line, It really doesn't matter. And also, our target is to make the wave as good as possible. That's where it's going to matter the most in like the situations in which it matters. The MP3 is going to be lossy anyway. Blah, whatever. And so minus 0.1, what it has over minus 1 is that you can make your master louder while still maintaining a larger dynamic range. And I think that matters. In the world of trying to make a master as loud as possible, like we're trying to, like, loudness war is over or whatever. It's not. Like, it's clearly not. Stuff comes in and, you know, we've got like EDM world, we have different genres, and they're trying to push as hard as they possibly can while still not getting penalized and not sounding bad. And the number one thing to not having a loud master sound bad is maintaining dynamic range. That's where, like, a lack of dynamic range is where things start to be less impactful over time, and also where you get the biggest penalties on the most amount of platforms and like live performance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So 0.1 minus 1, that's a whole dB of dynamic range that you're going to lose if you set your ceiling to minus 1. So I would much rather risk like the MP3 not being as the best MP3 in all of MP3 world. I'd much rather risk that. I would rather get, so like in the case of like a 0.1 minus 1 thing with like Spotify, Spotify is going to turn down the track by 0.9 universally. They're not going to employ any sort of limiting or compression or whatever. It's just going to get turned down a click. But it's going to be turned down a click, but maintain its dynamic range. So that is my huge list of reasons to just say, do minus 0.1. I could pull up any number of like professional world references, and they are going to be minus 0.1. The only time that I see a master that's like minus 1 is like an indie band that did it themselves and Googled how to master. Done. Yeah, but great track. So a few things to address. Did all of that make sense? And was it followable, like with the mix stuff? Cool. Happy you have a bunch of notes. Good on you for taking notes. Yes, Pago. So for anyone watching, this is a ton of Open Studio. I'm here every single night starting around 6 p.m. Eastern. You can send tracks for engineering style feedback. It's a ton of records at gmail.com. That's the best way to send me stuff. There are guidelines for sending in things up at the top of the screen. That is how the show works. Happy to be here. You're always welcome to ask questions in chat, say hey, etc., etc. I have been doing this for like 3.5 hours so far today, a little bit longer. Yeah, if you've got tracks, definitely feel free. If not, I'll probably sign off sooner than later. But yeah, so I do, so I run Atonuv out of Detroit. So it's like a studio, and I do live sound. As far as social media, like, this is the most social media that I do, is the stream. And it's kind of like, for the last 10 years, I've been doing everything like DIY and like word of mouth and locally. And then the world shut down, and I was like, wow, I don't use the internet at all. And it just kind of, I became old like overnight, seemingly. Because, like I grew up with the internet, and then I just kind of like stopped doing stuff. So yeah, pandemic happened. I was like, I need to do internet stuff. So I started doing the stream. So this is the most high effort social media way to catch me doing anything at the moment. Um, there is a ton of mastering on Instagram, and there's a ton of records. There's a Facebook page. I rarely touch that stuff, in all honesty. There's also a Discord that I just put together for the stream. There's like 10 people on it so far. It'll become a cool thing. We've got a few people that are going to be sharing like multi-tracks and stuff. Yeah. It was a quick realization of like, no, everything's done. And then yeah, so in real world, it's like I'm running my studio and doing live sound, and I am a touring member of Summer Like This Season, which is like a electronic indie band, and that like in normal times tours extensively, and you know like probably like 100 road shows a year, and it's really awesome, and I miss it a whole lot. And uh, you know, hopefully that comes back. I'm 32, and yeah, so I have been doing this for a long time. Yeah, so lots of touring, and then it's like I think that it'll be cool. Like once the world starts up again, I'm gonna set up like some multi cameras like in the studio. I'm gonna do like some in studio streams when people come through to record, and I'll probably do like road streams once tour is happening. I'm actually pretty stoked about like the future of everything. So yeah, that's it. But yeah, I started I'm a violinist, so I started when I was a fetus, and then I got into like electric violin in high school because I was bored and didn't want to play classical music. So I figured out electric violin, and electric violin is horrible because it sounds bad, basically. So you kind of have to become an audio engineer to do it. And then I got, so it's just like very natural progression of like, oh, I'm really, really into like electronics and effects and stuff. And then I would play in rock bands. And so then, you're in high school, and it's like, okay, well, we have to figure out how to record and play live shows. And we're in high school, and the band is terrible. So no one's going to like do stuff for us. So I figured out how to do the stuff, and it made me love the stuff. And after high school, I wound up apprenticing, like doing a very, very like close teaching apprenticeship with Eric Levine, who was a Grammy-winning violinist and audio engineer. So I did like 4 years of intense study on both violin and the audio stuff. And then that turned into just like endless gigging for a decade. Live crew, and then like and then session work, etc., etc. And then in Detroit, I converted like a 4-car garage. It's like this ridiculous huge garage. So I tore it apart and built a studio into it. So there's like a live room and a mix room and, several rooms, multi-room studio. And it's like, it's kind of a bummer because it was like, it took me probably 4 years to like build it. It is not tragic. This story rules. Thanks. But no, the only thing that sucks is that like I built the studio, like hand wired it, uh built the whole like took the walls apart, rebuilt the walls, etc., etc., etc. And I put like the final touches on like perfectly tuning the live room. Like drums sound so good in there. And then the pandemic happened. So I had to kind of like put off years worth of work. So that's the only thing that's remotely tragic. And I'm not complaining because it still rules. And I guess I'm a little peeved. I also put in like years and years and years into like really really perfecting this full length for summer like the season. And we've had to put off releasing it for like a year or so. And it's like first off I think like as a band it's a really 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 great album, and it's also like really excellent audio engineering, and I really want it to exist. Cool. Go get a good haircut, and I will. I'll see ya. I'll see you again. Awesome mixes, dude. Oh yeah, that's how it is. No complaints. Happy to be alive. Happy to have good stuff going on. No complaints. So, folks, this is a ton of open studio. I'm Scott. I'm here every single night at 6 p.m. You can send me tracks to listen to, or you can gently prod to hear me just talk about myself into a camera for forever, or ask audio questions. And folks, we've been on the stream for it's approaching 4 hours at this point. So if there is business at hand to be done, awesome. Feel free to send something. And if not, I'll probably go and make some food. But for a moment, we have not had dog cam in a while. So let's just chillax, put our legs up, stretch, deep breaths, and just watch this dog be a little circle of like literally pure angel. Giddis knows that it's time to wrap up. He's asking for his scritches, and he knows that it's treat time. Okay, folks, I'm out of here. This was so far for this week. That was two epic streams, I would say. Monday and today were both just excellent. So thanks for stopping by. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for sending tracks. I'll be back tomorrow. I hope everyone does some great mixing.